Is the record on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, we're glad to have you. We are Bruce and Michelle Odiorn. We are whole food plant-based and have been since the summer of 2012. I am certified in plant-based nutrition as well as plant-based cooking. So today we're going to make a couple desserts. And I've heard a couple people say, I haven't eaten dinner. Well, we haven't eaten dinner either. So I like to tell everybody that desserts spelled backwards is stressed. So I'm going to eat my dessert first. So we're going to start with our black bean brownies. And I've got my food processor set up, and this is going to be gluten-free, soy-free, oil-free. Everything we do is oil-free. So I've got some old-fashioned rolled oats. I'm going to make my own oat flour. You can buy oat flour, but it's much cheaper just to buy the oats and to make your own flour. So while I'm doing that, Bruce is going to chop up a half a cup of walnuts. And we just want to show you a real simple way to do it. You don't need a lot of high-tech tools to do stuff. So show them what you're doing with your walnuts.
I just dump them into a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag. Take my rolling pin, roll it over the top of the nuts and watch them turn into little pieces.
You could also do this with a wine bottle. So this keeps all the mess in the bag. So if you were to do it on a cutting board, then you'd have pieces of walnut everywhere. So this way, everything's inside the bag. And when he's done, we're just going to open the bag and dump it in the bowl. So I'm going to check my flour. So my flour is going to go in my mixing bowl. This was in there with us.
Oh, okay.
So I got my flour in there. He's going to add the walnuts, and we're doing this first because it has to bake for 25 minutes.
There you go.
Okay, so we add our walnuts. No mess. You just throw the bag away. And then into our food processor, we're going to add the rest of the ingredients except my non-dairy chocolate chips. So I have got 2 ripe bananas that I'm going to add to my food processor. And you could do this with a hand mixer, but it's so much easier to do it with a food processor. So 1 banana. So both our ice cream and our brownies contain bananas today. So there's my 2 bananas. Then I have a half a cup of maple syrup. And I've got a 1/4 cup of unsweetened organic applesauce. Actually, I think I had a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Yeah, I only have a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, not a half a cup. But I do have a half a cup of cacao powder. You could use cocoa powder, but I like the cacao powder. And then I've got a teaspoon of vanilla and some chipotle chili pepper powder and some cinnamon. And then I've got a 1.5 cups of black beans, and you could buy them in the can. These are low sodium organic black beans, but I typically make all of my beans from dry in my Instant Pot. So this morning I actually put in 2 cups of dried black beans, which yielded 4.5 cups of cooked black beans. No soaking necessary, 25 minutes under pressure in my Instant Pot. So that's just some batch cooking. if I'm going to make some dried beans, I'm going to make more than what I need for the recipe that I'm currently making. So I'm going to blend this up. I've already turned my oven on to 350. And I'm going to stop and scrape down the sides of my food processor bowl. And I'm going to blend it up again. Okay, you want to take this lid? So my batter is nice and smooth. So I'm going to add it to my bowl with my oat flour and my walnuts. And if you're not a fan of walnuts, then you could sub it for a different nut, pecans. If you're not a nut fan at all, then don't put them in. Oh, this smells so good already. And as you can see, there's a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, so there's not a whole lot of sugar in here. So I'm just trying to get all of that good batter. I don't want to leave any of it in my bowl.
Like it to lick it?
You could lick it if you wanted. That's another nice thing about cooking this way is there's no eggs. So if I wanted to lick the bowl, I could, because there's nothing in there that will hurt me if I eat it raw. Okay, so let's take my blade out because there's some good stuff on the bottom of that. I don't want to waste it. I'm going to take that. Still got some in the bottom of my bowl. And then I'm going to add my non-dairy chocolate chips. And these are my favorite brand. These are Enjoy Life, and they are non-dairy. They don't have any stevia in it. I know a lot of the non-dairy chocolate has stevia in it, and I am not a fan of the aftertaste for stevia. Today we're going to use the semi-sweet mega chunks. They also come in dark morsels, as well as semi-sweet mini chips. So 3 different kinds. I always have them in my freezer. So I'm going to stir in my chocolate chunks, and then I'm going to mix it into my batter, and then we're going to pour it in our pan and get it in the oven. So I'm just incorporating my oat flour and my walnuts. I'm going to bring that pan over here on the table because I'm going to have to pour it in there, and you're going to have to watch mine. I have got an 8-inch square Pyrex glass dish, and I'm going to line it with parchment paper, and that way when I take it out, noise alert, I can just grab the parchment paper and take the brownies out. My pan is clean. I haven't added any calories by greasing my pan, if you will. Okay, so this is going in my pan.
Michelle, can you get those chocolate chips at Sprouts?
Yes,
Or-
Sprouts, Publix, Whole Foods. I haven't checked Winn-Dixie to see if they have them, but they have them at Publix and Sprouts, as well as Whole Foods. And they are my favorite non-dairy chip, chocolate chip. Okay, so I'm just going to smooth my batter out a little bit in my pan. And then we're going to put it in the oven for 25 minutes and let it cook. And while it's cooking, then we're going to talk about some other stuff. You want to open the oven door for me? Okay, my oven's off camera, so I'm gonna go put this in my oven. And my timer is set for 25 minutes. So while that is baking, I want to show you some other little tricks of the trade, if you will. So this is a Williams-Sonoma personal blender. It's like a NutriBullet. And I'm always about saving money. So just like we made our own oat flour in the food processor, I'm going to make my own oat flour in my little personal blender. So I'm just taking old-fashioned rolled oats. And I'm adding them to my personal blender. So we're going to have a little bit of noise. I don't think that was even maybe 10 or 15 seconds. I have nice oat flour. And this is usually my go-to flour, so I'll use this to make pancakes, waffles, muffins. So I'm just going to put this in a Ziploc bag. And it goes in my freezer. So I always have oat flour on hand. Okay, so what else can we do in this little blender? How about some brown rice? We can make our own brown rice flour. Much cheaper to buy the grain and make your own flour. So I'm going to put some of this brown rice in my personal blender. So again, a little bit of noise. You can also do this in a Vitamix, but if you don't have a Vitamix, this is a great option. Now, that was a little bit longer than the oats, and I still have a couple pieces, so I'm going to do it again. So now I have my own brown rice flour, and if anybody is into gluten-free baking, a lot of the gluten-free flours are brown rice and or oat, along with some potato starch. So now I've got some brown rice flour, which again is going in a Ziploc bag, and it's going to go in my freezer. So the shelf life is going to be however long. So what do you think about dried garbanzo beans? Because you can buy chickpea flour. Again, buying the flours are more expensive than buying the grain. So do you think this will work?
Yeah.
Because we already did it.
We were playing around with it beforehand.
So again, this is dried garbanzo beans.
Originally, I said no, it wouldn't do it.
Yeah, when we tried this, he said no. So let's see. And it will take longer than the rice.
Look.
So I now have garbanzo bean flour. And if you did have a Vitamix, it would be like half of that time in the Vitamix, because the Vitamix is more powerful than this personal little blender. So we just made 3 flours from dried grains at a fraction of what it would cost to buy the flour already milled. So this is just a great little tool. I assume the NutriBullet would work the same way. You can take that away. Okay, so next, let's talk about a Vitamix, because I do have 2. So I'm going to bring my Vitamix over here. And this is a great tool. I use this every day. It is an investment, but if you go to the Vitamix website, they have what they call reconditioned units, which means someone purchased one, didn't like it, sent it back. They cannot sell it as new, so they discount the price, but you still get the same 7-year warranty as if you purchased it new. So this is my picture, and when I got my first one, there were 2 different containers. They had a dry container and a wet container. And this is newer. I think I've had this one for maybe 4 or 5 years. This is one container. It does wet or dry. So earlier today, I roasted some peanuts. So again, just another way to save some money. Plus, I like to know what's in my food. So I buy peanuts, raw, blanched peanuts, again, at Sanwa on East Hillsboro. They're unsalted and they're raw. So I put them in a 325-degree oven and I roast them for 20 minutes. Then I turn the oven off and just let them sit in there. So I'm going to make my own peanut butter, okay? And the only ingredient is peanuts.
Oh, sure.
So I've got 4 cups of peanuts,
Oh, sure.
no sugar,
Oh, sure.
no salt. You could add salt if you absolutely had to, but I never add salt. So I've got 4 cups of peanuts in my Vitamix. Where's my tapper? Is my tapper over there? No, there it is. Okay, so the lid has a plug in it, which is great for doing what I'm going to be doing, because I'll have to put my tapper in there to tap the peanuts down, but it won't go all the way down inside where it hits the blade, so that's protected. So I've taken the plug out, and I'm going to turn this up as high as it will go. And again, we're going to have a little bit of noise, but you're going to see in just a little over 60 seconds, we have our own peanut butter.
Where's the Lord?
Oops, plug me in.
Plug it in.
I'm
Turn it
plugged
on.
in.
I don't know.
Michelle, can I ask you a favor? Can you come hit unmute on your thing? I was being silly and I pressed the wrong button, so I muted you, but now it says ask to unmute.
I was wondering why I
There
couldn't
she
hear.
is. Sorry.
That's okay.
Trigger
So
finger.
Where did I leave off?
Well, you were making this beautiful peanut butter, and
Okay.
so we heard all that, and then whenever you started talking after that, we didn't.
All
Hear
right,
you.
so here's my peanut butter, and I'd say it's pretty much a smooth consistency. There are some chunks in it which I like, but you could make it completely smooth if you wanted to. So, I mean, this is a very inexpensive way to make your own peanut butter. And like I said, I like to know what's in my food. So I know this is nothing but peanuts. So Vitamix is also great for smoothies. We're not a big juice person. We did juice a little bit in the beginning, but the problem with juice is you're not getting the fiber, and there's a lot of nutrients also in the fiber. So we make smoothies with the same ingredients that we use to juice. It's just the whole fruit or the whole vegetable goes in the Vitamix so that you get the fiber and all of the nutrients. So yeah, you can take that, put this over there on the counter. So there's my peanut butter. And then I do have an air fryer. It's sitting behind me, and it's a Philips air dryer. So here is my basket for my air fryer. And I love this thing for sweet potato fries or tofu, carrot dogs. I made carrot dogs in here. And if you have an air fryer, I mean, that can make a big mess with all the wires in there. So I actually found on Amazon, this is perforated parchment paper, which fits in the bottom of my basket, still allows the air to get into my basket, but clean up. Pull it out and throw it away. Now I also have some accessories for my air fryer. So I got this neat little additional tray. So I can put one layer, let's say I'm doing some cubed tofu. So one layer is going to go in the bottom, and then I'm going to put this rack on top and put another piece of parchment paper in there. And I actually have 2 layers of food that I'm air frying in my air fryer. There's also another rack with some skewers. So if I wanted to make kebabs, I would put my tofu and my vegetables on here, and the skewers lay on top, if they're not sticking together, lay on top, and then I make my own kebabs in the air fryer. There's also a little silicone pizza pan, there's a little cake pan, and these did not come with the air fryer. I had to buy them additionally as accessories. Yep. And with an air fryer, if you don't have one, a lot of the recipes that you see online involving an air fryer, you can do it in your oven, especially if you have a convection oven.
So, Michelle, I have a question because air fryers are all the rage now and you hear it a lot. We don't have one.
Yes.
So if I were to ask you, what is the benefit of having one? Why should I, plunk down the money for one? What would you say?
The biggest advantage I see for myself, because we live in Florida, is I'm not heating up my whole house by turning on my oven. Because I've got one little, this is one little appliance, and it doesn't heat up my whole kitchen. And living in Florida with what I call 6 months of summer.
Is it faster to cook the food?
Some things it's faster, some things it's not. And one of the other reasons that I got one, obviously, is for our cooking demos, because, at a lot of places that we go, We literally have a countertop. That's all we have. Sometimes we have a sink, but we never have an oven. So that was another reason that we made the investment for the air fryer.
Okay. And it looks like even though you can stack some things, it's obviously not going to cook as much. So if you have a family that eats a lot,
Right.
you probably aren't making as much as you need, or, okay.
Right. But it's just the two of us. So for the two of us, it's fine. It works just great.
Mm-hmm.
What is our time for what's my timer say?
9:37.
Okay, we got about 9 more minutes for our brownies to bake. So
You're done with
let's talk, what?
Did you finish your question?
Yeah, I finished your question. For the Yonanas, and if you've never had Yonanas before, this is the actual Yonanas machine. I will just show it to you. This comes off, and then it's got inside, this is what will actually chop up the frozen bananas. Semi-frozen bananas. So the beauty of this is it's a way to get ice cream, if you will, out all the fat and the sugar and the calories. So if you look at your recipe, what I did last night was I baked a really big sweet potato in the oven for 45 minutes. I think that's what the recipe calls for. And then I let it cool, and I baked it with the skin on, just in the oven on a baking sheet. And I cut it, I let it cool. I cut it in half and let it cool. And I just let it sit on the baking sheet for probably an hour. And then I went back and I just took a spoon and the flesh just scooped right out of it. I filled my little plastic ice cube tray and I stuck it in my freezer last night.
With what?
With sweet potatoes.
Oh,
I took the baked sweet potato, I filled, and the potato was probably, it was pretty big. It filled this whole tray. So I put this whole tray in the freezer last night. And would you get my sweet potatoes and my bananas out? They're on the top shelf, on the right. There's the sweet potatoes.
A shaped one.
So here are my sweet potato ice cubes, if you will. And then here are my bananas. And basically, I will buy a lot of bananas. And the perfect banana for Yonanas is when it just starts getting the black spots on it. So I will literally just peel the skin off and break the banana into about 3 different pieces and stick it in a Ziploc bag, and it goes in my freezer. So would you put that back in the freezer and grab me my vegetable bag while you're in there?
Changing gears again.
Changing gears again. So in some of our previous classes, and you haven't been in our classes before, we save all of our scraps during the week when we cook, whether we're making a salad or a stew or a soup or a casserole. All of the scraps from our vegetables and apple cores, I do put apple cores in here, go in a Ziploc bag that goes in my freezer. So in here I've got the tops and ends of red onions, white onions, yellow onions, scallions. I've got the skin from garlic. I've got some carrot tops. I do not put precipitous vegetable scraps in here, and I don't do potato skins because that's a lot of starch. But basically, and this is ready to use right now, I will take this out typically on a weekend, and I'll put it in my Instant Pot, and I'll cover it with water, and I'll add a bay leaf or 2 and some fresh peppercorns, and under pressure for 5 minutes is my vegetable broth. Now when the 5 minutes is over, I'll just turn the Instapot off and I'll let it sit there for a couple hours for the flavors to continue to infuse. And then I'll strain it. And I have my own low sodium vegetable broth. Sometimes I add a little bit of salt, but typically I don't. And then the scraps, once I've made my broth, we use in our garden. So we're big gardeners. We have earth boxes, if you're not familiar with what those are. They're just literally a box and they're on wheels. And we plant them 2 or 3 times a year, and we plant everything. What are some of the things you plant in your earth boxes? Come in here so they can see you.
Just name it. Whatever you can grow in a regular garden is what I plant in the earth box. Recently, I've had onions of different types. I've had pineapple, but we put our pineapple in the ground. A lot of what is that stuff called? I don't know what that stuff is.
Collard greens, Brussels sprouts, kale,
Yeah.
curly kale, dinosaur kale, tomatoes, basil, rosemary.
We got so much basil coming out of our ears. We have no idea what we're going to do with all of it. Well, hey, we'll make it
So
go.
we also keep the tops from our pineapples that we buy at the store. And this is a long process, but we plant them in the yard because we have a regular garden as well as our earth boxes. And we picked this today. So this is our first pineapple of the season. It takes a long time for them to grow and they're one and done. But I know this is going to be super sweet. So I'll probably use some of it for maybe some pineapple cornbread muffins, and I'll use some of it for a stir fry. So our first pineapple of the season.
Yay.
How much time we got?
We have
3 minutes?
3 minutes. 3:03.
Okay. Are there any questions, Jane?
Actually, there are no questions right now.
Okay.
We got a quiet bunch.
They're dreaming of how they could taste the brownies.
Probably eat dinner.
So, okay, so we have a little bit of time. We'll talk about the Instapot. Would you bring my Instapot over here?
Lots of pineapple lovers in the group. Everyone's really excited about the pineapple.
Yeah.
Oh, great question, Terry. What else can you use the Yonana machine for?
Any kind of frozen fruit. It does not have to be bananas. So when you buy it, it comes with a whole book of different recipes, and the recipe that we're making today is actually out of the Yonanas book. But a lot of times I will just take the plain bananas and do the bananas in the machine. What? It's under here. I'll do the Yonanas in the machine, and then I'll put some of my non-dairy chocolate chips on top of it when it's done. Another one of my favorites is the frozen bananas and frozen cherries. So here's the book that comes with it, and it's a dessert, the healthy dessert maker. So there's recipes in here for sorbet, fruit sorbet.
Lemons.
Yeah, just we
Grapefruit.
made some. We've got frozen peaches in our deep freezer,
So good.
and it was a combination of frozen bananas and frozen peaches, and it was so good. So I mean, there's 130 recipes in this book. So it doesn't have to be bananas. Some of them are banana based, but some of them don't have any bananas in them. I think there's one in here for like frozen raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries. So that would be like a tropical fruit sorbet. So, and these are available on Amazon. I don't know if they have them in like Kohl's or stuff like that. I've never looked for them. I bought mine on Amazon. So my what?
Can you, before we move on to Yonana, I have a Yonana question too.
Okay.
So if you don't have the real estate for that, can you still make something with the same consistency with either the food processor or the Vitamix?
You can, the biggest complaint that I hear with the Vitamix is you have to add liquid in the Vitamix for it to blend. And I tried it a couple times in the Vitamix before I got the Yonanas. I've never tried it in my food processor, but I think the food processor is the same, where you'd have to add some liquid, let's say non-dairy milk. So the consistency isn't going to be the same. But you could definitely do it. You want to take those out and put them on that, move the empty thing and put them on the rack. So the brownies are coming out of the oven to cool for a little bit.
We've got, while you're bringing those out, we have a question about the air fryer,
Okay.
about what size is the one that you have. And then the parchment papers that you showed us, were they specifically made for that air fryer, or
No.
were they repurposed?
The parchment paper was not for this specific brand, which is it's a Phillips, and I'm not sure what the size of it is. But the parchment paper I just found on Amazon, and it's not specific for this air fryer, because most of the air fryers. This is Zenology, Zenology, parchment paper perforated rounds, 200 sheets. So this will fit, I believe, in almost any brand of air fryer. I don't remember what I paid for them, because it was probably 2 years ago, because there's 200 sheets in there that'll last for a long time. So the last thing I want to talk about before we make our Yonanas is the Instant Pot. And this is my little baby one. This is a 3-quart. I also have 2 6-quarts. But I use them almost every single day. As a matter of fact, this morning I left to go to personal training, and Bruce put the black beans in here and cooked the black beans while I was gone.
It was such a work, such a job.
And yeah, it was 2 cups of dried beans, cover an inch over with water, set it for pressure for 25 minutes, and leave it. Because when the pressure's off, when it's done, it will go to keep warm, and then it will eventually turn off. So the beauty of this is, number 1, I cook my beans from dry, no soaking. Number 2, I don't have to stand at the stove and watch my beans as they boil, because he just set this, I was gone, he set this, and he went out and worked in the yard. So, I mean, it's great. But these are multi-function. So this one has a soup function, a stew function, a chili function. It's a slow cooker. It also has a saute function. So what's really great about that, and the insert comes out, and it's stainless steel. And I will tell you, there are some knockoffs out there. If you don't get the Instant Pot, make sure whatever brand you get, the insert comes out so that you can clean it, and the insert is not Teflon coated. So this makes easy cleaning. But on the saute function, let's say I wanted to cook something in my slow cooker all day. I would put the saute function on first, and I will saute my onions, my celery, my mushrooms, my carrots, whatever I need to saute. And then I just switch it to the slow cooker mode, put the rest of my ingredients in. I've got one pan instead of sauteing my stuff on top of the stove and then putting it in my slow cooker. So one appliance. It's also a rice cooker, porridge, you can steam vegetables, and it's a yogurt maker, and it's also a pressure cooker. So this is another investment, if you will. I typically, I think I bought my first one on whatever they call the Monday after Thanksgiving. I bought my first one. This little one I actually bought.
Would be Monday.
This is my, yeah, but they call it something special, the Monday after whatever. If you're an Amazon Prime member, I ordered something and I had to send it back, and I took it to Kohl's, and I didn't know they did this, but when I took it to Kohl's for them to ship it back to Amazon, they printed out my little shipping confirmation that they were sending it back. And additionally, there was a coupon attached to it that I could use for 1 week in the Kohl's store for 25% off any one item. And if I used my Kohl charge, if I had one, it was 35% off. So when I did the return, I was already looking for a little one. I bought that one at Kohl's at 25% less than what it normally would be. Okay, so we need bananas and sweet potatoes because we need to have them set out for 10 minutes. The trick for the Yonanas is you cannot take the fruit immediately out of the freezer and put it in the machine. You have to let it sit. So I am going to start, I believe the recipe is 2 bananas, and I usually break my bananas into 3 pieces. So I'm going to have 6 pieces of banana. And these can go back in there. And then I'm going to sprinkle the cinnamon on the bananas. So I've got some Ceylon cinnamon, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top of my Yonanas. Give me a timer for like 9 minutes. And then my sweet potato ice cubes, if you will. I need a cup of those. Would you grab me a measuring cup above the microwave? Yes, start. So I'm going to do the same thing with my sweet potato ice cubes. They have to sit out for a couple minutes. So while we're waiting for that, we'll go ahead and bring our brownies over here, and we'll get them sliced up. So I think a cup of these is going to be about 5 ice cubes, maybe 6. Yeah, just 6. And again, that's going to depend on the size of your ice cube tray. But I've got 6 in a cup here. So the rest of these are going to go back in my freezer. Freezer. Okay, so I'm just going to let these sit, and we're going to bring the brownies over here. Okay, so here's my brownies. I need those. So remember I told you that we put some parchment paper in there? I don't need that, I want a cutting board. So I'm just going to take my parchment paper and lift my brownies out, and we have a clean pan. So I did not even get my pan dirty. So now I've got my brownies. I wish you guys could smell these. And they're still warm. I would normally let them cool just a little bit more before I cut them. But we're going to go ahead and cut them. We need a knife. We need a knife.
Take a break.
No, we need a knife. And then we're going to plate our brownies, and then we're going to make our Yonanas. You want to cut them?
How big is?
I don't know, whatever you think, not too big. And these are going to be a moist brownie. They're not going to be a dry cake brownie. Chocolate in there is melting.
Would you like to have a serving spoon?
Yeah, my little spatula that I put over there that you tried to bring me a minute ago. Yep. Okay. So I've got my brownies. Bruce is licking the knife. You can't see it. He's off camera.
Safety first, Bruce, safety first.
It's just too good to just wash it away. So, I went out today because I have a chocolate mint plant and it's almost done, but I've got just a little bit of sprig of my chocolate mint. So I'm going to put that on top of my brownies. And then in another couple minutes, we're going to make our Yonanas. Does anyone have any questions?
Yep, we have a couple.
Okay.
So there's one about the Instapot, whether the one that you have is 6-in-1 or 7-in-1.
I believe they're both 7. All three of them, I believe, are 7-in-1.
7-in-1, okay. And then Elizabeth would like to give you her address and asks if you could deliver those brownies to her.
Well, unfortunately,
No, they're all gone.
when I mentioned it this morning at personal training, because there were 7 of us, we always talk about what are you doing the rest of the day, and I said, well, I've got a cooking demo at 5:30, and they said, oh, what are you making? Because they know that I'm whole food plant-based, and as soon as I told them I was making brownies and the sweet potato Yonanas, they said, how long is your class? And I said, well, it'll be over at 6:30, and they said, we'll be over. So,
And then tell us more about the chocolate mint plant.
oh, it's just like a regular mint plant. We bought it. I don't even remember where we bought it.
Oh,
Home
5 years
Depot.
ago.
Yeah, it's like 5 years old, but it tastes, instead of just tasting like mint, it tastes like chocolate mint.
It's
And
really
chocolate mint is my favorite. It's my favorite Lara bar, which is the mint chocolate chip. It was my favorite ice cream before I switched. They're in the refrigerator because I keep them cold. So it's mint, but it's chocolate mint, and it smells like chocolate mint. It's the green one. It's the green one. Anyway, these are Lara bars. If you're not familiar with a Lara bar, these are our go-to snacks, like when we're hiking or kayaking. This is my favorite, mint chip brownie. And a lot of times you can get them at Publix, you can get them at Whole Foods, you can get them at Sprouts, and they're on sale all the time. As a matter of fact, I was in Publix today and they had one on a clearance rack for 75 cents. Normally at Publix, they're like 4 for $5. 4 for $5, so they're $1.25 a piece. But these are our go-to snacks. So this is mint chip brownie. And literally, this is 6 ingredients. They're all date-based. There's no oil in them. This one is peanut butter chocolate chip. This one is almond butter chocolate chip. I'm the chocolate person. But they also make apple pie, cherry pie, peanut butter cup, key lime pie, lemon pie, pecan pie. So these are our go-to snack bars. So these are always, the ones that have chocolate chips I keep in the refrigerator. The ones that don't have chocolate in them, I keep them in my pantry. What's our timer say? Oh, here's a chocolate bar. I think somebody gave this to me, endangered species, 72% cocoa. And when you buy the chocolate bars, again, read the labels, because a lot of them will have oil in them and a lot of them will have soy lecithin. So those are 2 things I try and stay away from as far as the chocolate bars. And again, I keep these in the refrigerator or in the freezer.
Okay.
What is our timer over there?
Our timer says
Oh, we're winding down here. So
10 seconds.
okay, so this comes out of the top, and this is what we're actually going to push the fruit through with our little tamper. Let me turn that off. So I think our recipe says and insert half of the a frozen banana with a 1/4 cup of the sweet potato cubes, and then just keep doing that and alternating. So a little bit of noise again.
Noise alert. Good.
Oh, yes. Okay, so here is our Yonanas. So this is frozen sweet potato cubes and frozen bananas. I need a regular spoon. So there's a little bit on the end of my tamper. I'm going to get that because I want it all. And then I'm going to take this apart because there will be some inside here. And again, I want to get it all. So I'm going to take my spatula. I'm going to get all of it here, and I'm going to get it here. And then I'm actually going to take this part out because again, look at all that in there. So I'm going to scrape that off with my spatula. And by the way, we've never had this Yonanas yet, so this is an experiment for us too. But I love sweet potatoes, so I think it's going to be really good. So I clean that off. Now I'm going to clean out the stuff in the middle here. And then I'm just going to stir it up a little bit, and then we're going to be ready to eat it. Again, I wish you guys were here for a taste test, or we were there for a taste test. So here's one more piece over here, Bruce. So I'm just going to incorporate this a little bit, my bananas with the sweet potato ice cream. And like I said, we have not had this one yet. So this will be an experiment for us. So I got my brownies. Got my ice cream. So, who wants to taste? Get a spoon. Get a fork. Right there. Spoon and a fork. No, not that one. That one. Okay, let's taste the ice cream first.
Don't go away.
Oh, that's good. So let's taste the brownies.
Okay.
The chocolate's still melting. Oh, you're gonna eat it together.
It's tough. Love it.
So a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of brownie.
If you make this with us, you'll love it.
I would really love to see everybody's expression on their face right now because
Incredible.
staring at my monitor, just wishing I was there.
Mm-hmm. This is really good. So we are actually going to put this in the freezer. You can put it in the freezer We never have any leftovers. I'll usually make about this much and we will eat it as soon as I make it. But because we're not going to eat it all right this minute, we are going to put it in the freezer so that it stays and it doesn't melt. Well, we'll just do a thing of saran wrap. So let's put some saran wrap over the top of our bowl and put it in the freezer. And we'll have it after we have dinner. Any questions, Jane?
There are no questions, although I believe approximately 6 people are online right now ordering their own Yonana machine. I'm not even exaggerating.
You will not be disappointed. And if you have kids, you know, it's a great machine, a great treat for the kids, and get the kids involved in making it. We did a demo with Jane and Ann Esselstyn at the Epicurean a couple months ago. I think it was in March, right before everything closed down. And the dessert, one of the desserts we served was Yonanas. And we had one of the instructors brought her children, and we had the kids come up and make all the ice cream. So get your kids involved because they'll like, you know, they're making something. And again, it's just a healthier alternative for you than the ice cream with the dairy and the sugar and the fat. So
lots of people are super excited about these recipes, and the great news is, for those of you that haven't seen our updated flyer, we have added a class next week where Michelle and Bruce are going to talk about cost-cutting ideas, doing weekly meal plans, local sales, purchasing bulk items, and cooking with in-season produce. And this time, we're going to try something different. We're actually going to run the class at 8 a.m. So we thought before work, and why not make a plant-based breakfast food? So we're going to be making protein-packed power bowls. Exciting, right?
And one more word about the black bean brownies. I encourage you to make them and not tell your guests that there are black beans in them, because they will never know there are black beans in the brownies. So a lot of times people will form an opinion regarding what you tell them is in the dish. So just make the brownies, don't tell them there's black beans in there, and then they will not taste the beans. You do not taste the beans whatsoever. So we hope you try the recipes. I'm glad to hear some of you are ordering the Yonanas machine. It's a great little tool. So again, thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Monday, bright and early at 8 a.m.
Oh. Bye, Bruce and Michelle. See you next week.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks.
Good evening.
We are posting the videos on our YouTube channel. Right now, they're accessible via a link on the updated flyer we just created, which we did send out, so you can check them out there, and I'll find a way to post the recipes as well. Thanks, Bruce and Michelle. Have a great evening, and for those of you that can join us next week for breakfast, I look forward to seeing you there, and then we'll talk more about more classes in September.
Okay, have a good evening, everyone.
Have a great evening.
Thank you so much.